So I remember back in 2008 when Barack Obama was campaigning for the presidency. I had a conversation with one of my friends about how he viewed that senator from Illinois. His response surprised me and has always stuck with me. He said, "I think he's the Messiah, the chosen one. I think he'll win and everything will change for the better. He'll save us." Now, at that time in my life, I wasn't political in the least. In fact, it wasn't until 2016 that I begrudgingly began to venture into the political dimension of American life because, as I saw it, there was no way around it at that point. This was largely because of the way that another group of my friends viewed and spoke about another presidential candidate, Donald Trump. Their opinions surprised me, and I've never forgotten the manner in which they expressed their devotion to President Trump. They said, "I think he was raised up by God." They said, "I think he's the chosen one. He's like Cyrus. He will win and everything will change for the better. He'll save us." Now, while I'm not sure that everyone who supported Barack Obama or Donald Trump felt that either candidate brought messianic hopes to fruition, I am sure that these two contentious and controversial presidents have largely shaped our political environment through their bickering and their contention and their fighting with one another. So if we look closer at the manner in which people supported President Trump, I think we can learn a thing or two about ourselves and about our country. I remember that there were many people who expressed their belief that Donald Trump was raised up by God because his name was in the scriptures, Trump. They pointed to scriptures in the Bible and in the Doctrine and Covenants that said things like, "And at all times and in all places he shall open his mouth and declare my gospel as with the voice of a trump, both day and night." So this is an interesting form of reasoning. If the evidence of Donald Trump's divine calling is found in the mention of his name in the scriptures, then we can apply this logic to other individuals. For example, Mallard Fillmore would be largely exempt from this type of speculation or reasoning because his name is not in the scriptures. But on the other hand, the name Barack is in the scriptures, perhaps even more directly than the name Trump. Barack was a judge in ancient Israel. His story is told in the book of Judges as one of the most remarkable and fantastic victories of the Israelites against their enemies. His story is told in Judges chapters 4 and 5, part of which says, "Awake, awake, Deborah, awake, awake, utter a song. Arise, Barak, and lead thy captivity captive. Then he made him that remaineth have dominion over the nobles among the people. The Lord made me have dominion over the mighty." It is notable that Barak's story, as it exists in the Bible, includes the prophetess Deborah. So Barak's story is not his story alone. It is also Deborah's story. Before Barak struck forth to deliver the Israelites from captivity and oppression, he said to Deborah, "If thou wilt go with me, then I will go. But if thou wilt not go with me, then I will not go." And Deborah said, "I will surely go with thee, notwithstanding the journey that thou takest shall not be for thine honor. For the Lord shall sell Sisera, their enemy, into the hand of a woman." So I think the story of Barack is certainly an interesting one. And I think that the story of Barack Obama has a lot of parallels with the ancient Barack from the scriptures. In fact, it's so significant that mention is even made of Barack in the New Testament in the book of Hebrews. It says, "And what shall I say more? For the time would fail me to tell of Gideon and of Barack and of Samson and of Jephthah and of David and of Samuel and of the prophets, who through faith subdued kingdoms, wrought righteousness, obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions, quenched the violence of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, waxed valiant in fight, and turned armies to flight." So my purpose in pointing this out is to make a simple point. If we're going to determine the legitimacy of our presidents based on the mention of their name in scriptures, then we can't play that game with one person and not with another. Is the name Trump in the scriptures? Yes. Is the name Barack in the scriptures? Yes. Which is viewed more specifically, with more detail, and more favorably? I would simply point out that Barack was an ancient, divinely appointed judge for ancient Israel, and a significant song that we sing in church plainly states, "The Lord is extending the saints' understanding, restoring their judges and all as at first." Now, to be completely honest, I don't think that the manner of our modern constitutional government lends itself particularly well to heroism, the heroism of individual leaders. Instead, we would do well to remember that the Constitution was designed to disperse the power of government, to limit the authority of the executive, and to grant room for the cultivation and nourishment of the voice of the people through their elective representatives and through their direct vote. So George Washington once said, "The disorders and miseries which result from partisan politics gradually incline the minds of men to seek security and repose in the absolute power of an individual. And sooner or later, the chief of some prevailing faction, more able or more fortunate than his competitors, turns this disposition to the purposes of his own elevation on the ruins of public liberty. So I think that it's important for us to understand what it means when we say that we support the Constitution of the United States rather than the heroism of like a particular individual. So senators swear this oath when they're made senators. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the offices on which I'm about to enter. So help me God. The President has a similar oath. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of the President of the United States, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So I would say that our fidelity and our allegiance cannot necessarily be to an individual. Instead, our allegiance must be to the Constitution of the United States of America. This document and this system of constitutional government has long been the pillar of defense against tyranny, despotism, and authoritarianism. So what does it mean to support the Constitution of the United States? In large measure, it means that we support a national government that is composed of the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. So Article 1 within the Constitution provides for the legislative branch, and there's two houses to it, the Senate and the House of Representatives. Article 2 of the Constitution that we claim to support, that we hold up as a banner of liberty, establishes the executive branch, which has the president and the vice president, and his cabinet members, and the 15 organizations associated with them. Article 3 provides for the judicial branch, which is headed by the Supreme Court, and which has the Court of Appeals and the district courts. This is what we are saying that we support when we say that we support the Constitution. So Article 4 simply unites the states. Article 5 provides a provision for amending the Constitution. And Article 6 states that the laws that we produce in accordance with the Constitution shall be the supreme law of the land. Article 7 simply says that 9 of the 13 original colonies have to accept the Constitution for it to become binding and for it to become law. And so I think that to a large degree, when we talk about supporting the Constitution, it's not vague. We're not supporting a random standard of liberty. We're supporting a national government that has 3 specific branches that produces laws that are the supreme law of the land. And if we don't support that, and if we then we shouldn't be claiming the Constitution. But if we do support that, then we should look for ways to revitalize and to nourish and to cultivate our constitutional system of government. And I think that's a good thing. I think the Constitution is a good thing because it disperses power. It's not about just like one individual.
So, what is your taking on this specific Capitol riots that were occurring last week? And then what's your specific trajectory to where you think politics is going to go right now? Because it's at the point where politics is becoming ever so popular. Everyone's getting involved in it. You know, I'd say maybe 8 years ago, before Barack even ran, when George Bush ran with John Kerry, nobody even like really cared, like whatever, let them do their own thing. Yeah. Barack came in the scene, everyone was like young and vibrant. Trump came in the scene, it's like, whoa, let's just jump on board. And so like I feel like, where do you think the projection of politics is heading right now, like the outcome and so forth?
Right. Well, to tell you the truth, I'm increasingly concerned about partisan politics because it seems like the system is designed for combustion. And so when the Democrats win, the Republicans double down with a vengeance. They come back, they try to destroy everything that was done. When the Republicans win against a Democrat, they try to destroy everything that was done. And I think there's a fatal error, there's a fatal flaw in the system of partisan politics. So I would say the solution is that we have to remove ourselves. We have to like unclench from the idea that we are allegiant to a particular political party, and we should seek for the purity of constitutional government, where we populate the government with men of integrity who make clear decisions that are even-handed, that consider justice, that consider equity, that are competent in judgment, rather than like receiving their orders from a political party or voting as a bloc. To me, one of the most concerning things is to say like the Democrats have control of the government. or the Republicans have control of the government. Wait, what? Who has control of our government? Our government doesn't have control of our government? It's like there's like some party within it, you know? Yeah, so I think
And speaking of that, because I mean, with when Barack ran and he had the first 2 years of the Senate and House, and then I think Paul Ryan ended up becoming like in the House Speaker. And it was one of those things where we're not going to work with these people.
yeah.
Nothing's going to get done. You know, it's just a disaster. Then Trump wins, then Nancy Pelosi comes up. We're not going to work with these people, and then it's just it's a disaster.
I know, they're storming the Capitol. What?
It's a movie.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was so good.
Alright, so first of all, I really like the theme of this, especially when you talked about kind of shying away from this like political messiahship. Representative Ocasio-Cortez, like one of the things that she, like in an interview, she said that like we shouldn't view politicians as like as the answer, you know, because the answer isn't in politicians, it's in ideas, you know. It should be in the movement and the specific reforms, you know, not in specific politicians. So I think that's a really powerful and really important thing to remember. One question I would ask is, do you think there is any good that comes out of partisanship, and if so, what is it?
I mean, I guess it depends on how you define partisanship, because there are many elements that could be defined as partisan that are good. Like on the Democratic side, the idea that we should help the poor, that there should be something that the government does to uplift these people, to remove them from oppression, to free them, to help them. Like those are all positive things. But so to take those and connect them with every other issue and say that that marriage issues and transgender issues are inseparably connected with the care for the poor, to me is not, it's not true. Those are separate issues. And so when we're forced to accept one issue that we like and then take everything else wholesale from a Democratic ticket, from a Democratic platform, right? Something that's been pre-designed and predetermined, that exists in terms of an agenda of how they're going to design and then pass legislation, it makes the whole thing kind of corrupt. But there are many elements. Like I think almost everything that partisanship covers, all the issues that they touch upon and that they address are valid, and in some way they should be like redeemed from the clutch of, you know, like it's not. Yeah, does it make sense?